And I see a lot of male and female complaining, and I just wanted to shed some light on a thing or two. I see a lot of single mothers complaining that men don't take care of their children and that men don't accept responsibility for their actions. And I see a lot of men complaining that women don't take responsibility for their actions. And they also complain that single mothers are rude and belligerent. I will co-sign both. There are a lot of men that don't take care of their responsibilities as fathers, and there are a lot of single mothers who are in fact rude and belligerent. I'm going to focus on the women, and this is not meant to be a video allowing men to shirk their responsibilities as fathers. But as women, I think we take less responsibility, and here's why. It is somehow extremely difficult for a woman to accept that they did some hoe stuff. If you are sleeping with a man and he's not married to you and you allow him to get you pregnant, that's hoe behavior. Plain and simple. You're not holding your vagina to a high standard, so you really can't expect him to be held to a high standard. A lot of single mothers like to throw around the term family. If he was not married to you, he had no family and therefore was not leaving a family. He was leaving you. If he was not married to you, he didn't think enough of you to make you his wife. What makes you think he even wanted the child? See, a lot of women run around getting upset that men aren't taking care of their children when most of the times they probably didn't even want these kids. You have a greater responsibility, ladies, because it's your womb. Outside of rape, you allow someone to get you pregnant. If you are having these children outside of a marriage, myself included.
Me too.
Don't be mad when you're left alone. And I don't want to hear about, oh, marriage may not work. That's just a lonely, bitter baby mama's way of, not admitting their own failures. So they crap on everybody else's marriage and the concept of marriage. It's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna hold your vagina to a high standard, then hold men to a high standard. If you don't hold your vagina to a high enough standard, then to not get every dusty bum that comes around get you pregnant, you cannot hold men to a standard and force them to raise children.
Yep.
I don't understand how women have men and they'll tell you how horrible the baby father is, which really is a bad reflection on you. You should stop doing that. But they'll go around saying how horrible this person is. And then expect this same person who they knew was a pretty crappy dude to begin with be this fantastic father. I don't understand it.
Never did.
And then they get angry with the man and they blow up the phone and they want to, I need you to be here at such and such a time and you need to do this and you need to do that. And you knew he was a crappy dude. He wasn't taking care of you. What makes you think he
wasn't take care of his other kids?
And no, you are not a family. Because I see a lot of single mothers that tell their baby's father, we had a family. If you were not married, there was no family to leave because you were not a family. I need for women to accept their whole behavior.
Accept it.
If you want to raise your standard, great. Don't hold everyone else to a high standard when your standard is so low.
Yep.
If you don't want children by dusty dudes, protect your womb and don't have children by dusty dudes. If you don't want to be a single mother, find somebody, get married before you get pregnant. You want to be mad at your child's father? You're going to push him away from those kids. Nobody wants to be around a mean, angry, belligerent, abusive woman.
Not at all.
If you want that man to take care of those kids, stop it. There are so many times I see men with children that they really didn't want by this chick. They just wanted a nut. And believe me, ladies, it is no accomplishment to find a man that would sleep with you. It really isn't. So they find these men from God knows where. They allow them to get them pregnant. And then when the man runs off, they're angry and they're upset and they blow up the phone and they're belligerent. And the man's like, man, you know what? This ain't even worth it. Examine yourself. Check your whole behavior before you go check somebody else's whole behavior. 50% of a woman's problem come from her inability to shut up.
Real talk.
Ladies, we need to be quiet and accept
Yeah, I don't
responsibility.
want to hear that. I want to hear that. It's everybody else's
All right,
fault.
guys,
All right,
so
hold on 1 second,
We
guys.
have an insane story.
Hold on 1 second.
out of-
Yeah, let me stop that. Let me stop the sharing process. Let's get into it. Earlier, I was I had another live going on when I was talking about these specific things where accountability is a must, but it's only going one way. It's been going one way for quite a while, and people are not taking the initiative to be accountable for themselves because I can't keep on. I always go by society, but as a logical thinking man, I can't keep on blaming society. I just can't. I can't blame society for what you need to understand that how accountability works as an adult. That's the best thing you can do. Again, I get mad. I'm a show videos like I just was showing. If you just joined my live, I get a lot of people disrespecting the process of that. I'm saying specifically around me, disrespect the process of a man taking accountability, understanding what he needs to do to, raise a family, to make way better choices than he did in his past. I come to see that a lot of people, especially old friends of mine, what have you, they see me as how I was 10 years ago, 15, 20, 25 years ago. It's like in my community, it's like you don't supposed to change. You're supposed to be the same way, especially when you're a black man. See, a sister, black American woman can change anytime she wants, and that's the problem. A lot of modern day people in general, but especially hurt black American people, don't want to change, don't want to look to real accountability, real solutions, giving young people that's coming up with knowledge, making their homes better before they make anybody else homes better. And that's the biggest problem that we have, one of the biggest problems that we have, and to me, it's not acceptable to think that a grown man such as my age can grow up with have a process of you know calling people out even when it hurts their feelings. I get called out all the time. Don't hurt my feelings. I look at the person that's saying the character of that person, and I look at if the person is saying the honest opinion. That's what that's the process of looking in the mirror all the time. And that's the stuff that gets me going. Hold on 1 second. I want to say on live. Hopefully it won't mess up again. Hold on 1 second because it messed up last time I did this particular thing. Let's see. Boom. Hold on. Maybe something going on with it, but I'm gonna see what's good. Hell with it. Hold on. Let me see how it goes this time. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, I think it's gonna work this time. Let's go back. I want to show you another video that uh, that I've been looking at, and as a matter of fact, that's progressing. This man that I listen to all the time, his name is T Hassan, and he talks some real game, like real game for young black men. To be honest with you, you know, it's a problem. It's a situation where that this must things must go to what it needs to go to for us to have real solutions. You don't have to be a you don't have to be an intelligent person to realize you don't have to be an all the way intelligent person to realize it's a problem. It's a huge problem that's going on. And no one cares unless it has to do with pandering to their opinions or what have you. But let me share this video with you real quick and we go from there. Brother talking right now is actually a video premiering now. No, I never saw the video before. So let me put this in here. Hold on 1 second. Let's go.
Rationalism and neutral principles of constitutional law. One of the key theses of critical race theory is that racial equality under the current system of liberal American constitutional democracy is impossible. Right? I'm not going to read over the larger red components, but this is one of the things I was saying when I was talking on BGS's platform about this. I was saying you have a watering down that's happening as liberal whites have entered the discussion and began to do their own brand of critical race theory in universities.
We're talking about critical race theory right now.
It's happened with intersectionality. It's happened with all forms of black radicalism. It's happened with LGBT theory, black LGBT theory. Once it becomes something that liberal whites begin to internalize, they water it down, and couch it in their own language. And that's usually a language that's less threatening to the mainstream. Anyway, so he continues, the foundations of critical race theory. Since the passing of Brown versus Board of Education and the end of the Cold War, the conversation concerning the place of black peoples within empires and colonies disappeared from the forefront of scholarly analysis. Many institutions of higher education followed Harvard's core curriculum report, which urged the creation of a liberal arts curricula emphasizing the triumph and superiority of Western philosophy and civilization to stave off the racial and anti-colonial dissent of the 1960s and 70s. It should come as no great surprise then that the debate over critical race theory does not accurately represent the actual intellectual tradition started by Derek Bell in the late 1970s as a response to the failure of the American Civil Rights Movement and the integrationist project, but rather emphasizes the dangers associated with educating young people in white societies about the failure of democracy and the tyranny that white populations have lethally imposed on the darker races for the last several centuries. Now, shout out to my boy Ian. He had an exchange with Dr. Curry where they did talk about Kimberly Crenshaw and her contributions to it. But from what Dr. Curry said, it looks like Kimberly Crenshaw did name this critical race theory as a law student while she was still in law school. But the bulk of the foundation of this was developed much earlier by Dr. Bell himself. All right, continuing. Derek Bell is widely credited as being the founder of critical race theory. In 1976, Derek Bell asserted that Brown v. Board of Education ultimately failed to provide equality and democratic governance to Black Americans. His argument, like that of his mentor, Judge Robert L. Carter, insisted that it was not segregation that caused the negative sociological and psychological consequences of racism, but white supremacy, or the erroneous belief that whites were meant to possess and manage the lives and labor of Black people in the United States as they had previously done in colonies across the world. Bell was adamant that the policies of racial redress are still based on the sense, no less deeply held when it is unconscious, that America is a white nation and the white dominance over Blacks is natural, right, and necessary, as well as profitable and satisfying. This pervasive belief, the very essence of racism, remains a viable and valuable national resource. Influenced by the Black radical tradition of Black militancy and semi colonial analysis, Derek Bell came to believe that racism was a permanent and unchanging aspect of American society. Bell insisted that the civil rights legislation and initiatives were merely symbolic. And even those Herculean efforts we hail as successful will produce no more than temporary peaks of progress, short lived victories that slide into irrelevance as racial patterns adapt in ways that maintain white dominance. So one can simply look at the election of Barack Obama to the presidency or the new VP, right, Kamala Harris. What lasting entrenched changes on the benefit of people of African descent, particularly ADOS, as one might call them here in the United States, or FBA, whatever the terms people are most comfortable with in terms of identifying a lineage of people who experienced slavery in North America. What have those elections wrought that provides lasting change? And how did the Black community in particular fare once those people were elected? Did their lot in life improve? Seems to prove Derek Bell correct. Continuing, it has come as a great surprise to whites that the Black scholars that have informed critical race theory do not believe in the promises of Western democracy or the delusion that racial equality is possible in these white democratic societies. Since the 19th century, Black scholars have insisted upon the permanence of white racism in the US and other white empires. Contrary to the academic depictions of Black American figures as hopeful and invested in the democratic experiment of America, Black thinkers insisted that anti-Blackness stains Black Americans into perpetuity. Throughout the 1800s, historic Black figures associated Black liberation with the Haitian Revolution, not incorporation in the US. In America and Europe, the liberal democratic ideal insists that the race problem between Blacks and whites will inevitably be resolved with the passing of more time. This idea of automatic progress insists that the death and dying of Black people, while constant, slowly moves white populations towards greater social consciousness and racial understanding. This optimism regarding anti-Black racism, or the set of racial antipathies wedding Blackness and Africanity to inferiority, savagery, and disposability, depends ultimately on the ability of white democracies to manage the outrage and political dissent Black American and European populations have to their disproportionate deaths, disadvantages, and poverty compared to the white citizenry. Next section, the allure of equality. Right? And it's up here. Incorporation within white liberal democratic societies demands an acceptance of liberal ideology by its citizenry. The offensiveness of CRT is that it makes racism a permanent and dynamic force that manifests alongside the pretense of democratic values and expression. Whereas white liberal thought locates itself as a progressive ethical stance, motivating social reform against the decadent paleo conservatism of its respective society, CRT suggests that the liberal conservative distinction is illusory and merely a disagreement over the most efficacious strategies of racial rule. To maintain the pretense of racial equality, liberals demand racism to remain abstract, right, and equal to other forms of sexual and economic marginalization. As Gary Peller has explained, liberal integrationist ideology is structured so that some social practices are taken out of the economy of race relations and understood to be undistorted by racial power. In this way, democratic liberalism removes the exceptionality of race and racism by making integration/inclusion the universal tenet of social progress. Consequently, any thinking that justifies exclusion of or resembles racial segregation is deemed racist. For the liberal, The Black nationalists responding to the racist violence of the police, the KKK, or even white feminists is deemed just as racist, if not more oppressive than the initial white perpetrators of violence. For example, up a little. The Black Panther Party is often depicted as the black version of the KKK, despite its focus on education, medical care, and even women's rights. The very idea of black militancy is equated with tyranny, violence, and black male savagery, despite black militancy responding to the initial violence of white vigilantism and terrorism. This is in stark contrast to liberal movements such as feminism that had state-sponsored involvement, historically endorsed the murder of black men and boys, and the carceral state being hailed as successful progressive movements presently. Throughout multiple disciplines, the racist origins of liberalism, white women's rights, or even the Brown v. Board of Education decision remain hidden by the dominant narrative of racial progress. Equality, then, is a yearning for inclusion into this society that is said to offer protection and recognition for Blacks, despite the death and dying of Black populations. Over the last several years, the public executions of Black men and boys in the United States have energized conversations around racism in the United States and the UK. While America continues to insist that the deaths of Black people do not indicate a significant flaw in the structure of American society, Great Britain insists that race is simply not a fundamental aspect of social inequality in its country, despite the evidence showing that Black citizens and migrant populations.
Okay, guys, I wanted to show you that real quick. This brother, his name, I think a lot of people should follow him no matter if you're a black man or not, but he's especially promoting what I promote: black men making better decisions, making better examples, um, you know, giving their own knowledge of how they lived and how they lived in the past and how they're living in the future. I mean, in the present, and how they trying to live in the future. This brother right here is, I salute him on everything he's a very educated, common sense brother. See, there's a lot of educated people out there, but it's not a lot of people with common sense. And this is what we have to look at. I have to like this because this brother be saying some true things. His name is Dr. T. Henson Johnson. Remember that name, Dr. T. Henson Johnson. Okay, I'm gonna be on here for the next couple of minutes because I gotta take my family somewhere. I want you guys to look at a couple things before I go, and I'm gonna put my perspective on it as well. What I'm doing. So here's content. Some of this, I share a lot of the content that ideas I get, and from the YouTube videos that I do and stuff like that. Again, please go visit me and like and share on Kasim Lamar YouTube. I think you guys will like it, especially if you're raising a young boy and you want your boy to be a better, make better decisions. There's a lot of men in the manosphere is trying to create that. Nobody isn't trying to disrespect nobody and nothing like that. We're trying to create an atmosphere where our sons won't be what we doing. What we did in the past. You're making better decisions, having actual a nuclear family and stuff like that. We're not trying to put nobody down. We're just trying to make these decisions that we must make for our future children. Because again, it's not going right when we promoting all this bull to our children. All right, I'm gonna let you guys look at this. It's about women are, this is talking about the domestic violence and what's going on out here and how people always make it seem like it's just men doing this domestic violence. And the numbers are minuscule by many different aspects. But I'm gonna let them explain it a little more. It's another brother, young brother, that's on YouTube that I listen to because he have a lot of people on here that be making so much sense. But let me let you guys see for yourself. Hold on a second. And I'm gonna speak on it too.
What's up, YouTube? Travion from the Poor Man's Podcast here. The following is a clip I did with Dr. Donald Dunn.
Dr.
Dutton is an
Donald
expert
Dutton.
in domestic violence. He's written over 100 papers and about 5 or 6 books on the topic. For access to this full episode and access to other videos that have been demonetized on YouTube, make sure you become a Patreon. The link is in the description below. Enjoy the clip. Just one of the things in particular that kind of got me into your videos is your information seemed unbiased. In America, when it comes to domestic violence, a lot of people, when it comes to men dealing with domestic violence, a lot of people just look at it as a joke. We have a show called The View where one of the hosts, Sharon Osbourne, literally talked about having a man's penis cut off. It was a story where a man's penis was cut off and thrown in a garbage disposal, and she laughed at it on air. I mean, we have our pop stars like Cardi B saying that she openly stated that she drugged and robbed men and nobody even cares. I mean, you have the Johnny Depp situation. I just wanted you to for the people that's listening, can you clear the air when it comes to gender and domestic violence? Because a lot of people seem to think it's very exclusive to women dealing with this problem, but your data seems to show something else. Can you please just elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, there's two things. One is, what you're hitting on here is really, really important. That is just kind of, it's not just in the U.S. I mean, this perception that men don't feel pain from domestic violence is most prevalent in countries where women have come the furthest and have the most power. So that's the U.S., the U.K., Northern Europe, Canada, all those countries. It's a political view that has a strong component of misandry. And it's so entrenched that you can take a simple act that can't possibly have a sort of gender aspect to it, which is putting a lighted cigarette out on somebody's arm. Okay, right. It's going to hurt. Whether you're man or woman, it's going to hurt. But if you ask people, would it hurt a man or woman more? They all say it would hurt the woman more. Now, women deal with childbirth. They deal with a lot of pain. Anyway, it's a perception that people have that whatever happens to the man is not important. I mean, I've given case examples to my classes where guys have been dipped in acid and had body parts cut off and horrible stuff, horrible stuff. And these are all true cases. I mean, went through the courts and the court information. So there's this perception that is kind of something we have to deal with in the terms of looking at male victimhood. Then there's the data, the information on who perpetrates domestic violence. Now, the U.S. is a world leader in this respect because there's been 5 excellent victim surveys done in the U.S. Huge samples, representative samples, starting from 1989 and running right up to 2004. And they all say the same thing, that it's 50% of reported domestic violence is bilateral. It's a 2-person thing, back and forth, back and forth. 35% of the remainder, the unilateral domestic violence, is female perpetrated. 15% is male perpetrated. But of that 15%, 10% or 2/3 of it is just like a push and a shove or a slap. It's not serious stuff. So that leaves 5% that fits the stereotype of serious domestic violence, male perpetrated domestic violence. 5% of all domestic violence actually fits that stereotype. That's all. But we deal with it in policy, so that was the only thing happening.
Right. From those statistics, though, so it was actually found that women are more likely to commit domestic violence then.
Yeah. Not
by very much, but definitely more likely from what it sounds like.
Quite a bit. 35% to 15%. And that's 5 separate.
You guys hear that? 35% to 15%. Women are more than likely to commit domestic violence. I mean, if you look at the numbers, and I had a chance to look at what Dr. Dutton was saying, when you look at the numbers, it says the exact thing. Like, this is what I mean when we have a lot of propaganda being displayed. This is why I say get out of these chaotic relationships, man or woman. It's a simple thing, man. People make it unsimple as much as they possibly can because especially certain modern day women, and then these beta males and Pookie and Ray Rays, because they feel like they are portraying this propaganda. But realistically, 35% to 15%. Let's go.
Studies with large
Thank you,
samples, all done independent of each other. They all find the same thing. So that strengthens it that much more. You got a collective sample here of over
Hold on a second. Let me
25,000
mute.
respondents who
No,
answered
keep
these
saying what
surveys.
you're saying.
And it's quite a bit to say 35 versus 15%.
Right. Whoa. So when you look at those statistics, do you find anything in particular as far as race or demographic? I mean, social class? It doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, Black, white, Asian, or rich or poor. Or
the biggest demographic predictor of incidents of domestic violence is age.
okay.
Young people do it more than older people.
I agree with
worked
that.
it out. Everything else like race, socioeconomic class, etc., they're not as predominant. You get things like class times race interactions and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, they don't impact on the basic finding that females are more likely perpetrators than males. And that, of course, stands in complete opposition to our policy and our thinking. So, the police are kind of primed to arrest the man.
Absolutely.
Right. So do you think that I wonder if is it two people that are just attracted to each other through some psychological way? You know what I mean? Like for a person that domestic violence is committed against, do they have a internal thing that makes them seek out that kind of person in a relationship more of, or is it just you hit me, so I'm going to hit you? That's why it's usually 50% and usually.
Yeah, people get locked into, sort of a conflict scenario where nobody wants to give an inch, nobody wants to back down, and it escalates, and it escalates to a point sometimes where it gets physical. Now, it's interesting that in Oregon, a psychologist by the name of Deborah Capaldi, and she did something called the Oregon Youth Survey, which followed people from age 17 up until their middle 20s in Oregon for a long period of time, and she assessed everything, including mental health, psychological health, and domestic violence use. And what she found is that you would have these couples that would have a sort of level of combat. I mean, they would have these conflicts that would get pretty heated. They'd be yelling and screaming, maybe pushing. But on one particular day, it would get out of hand. It would go above its normal level of conflict. And then the police would get called. And then the police would arrest the man 81% of the time, even though with these couples she'd been following, it was really clear that both the man and woman were equally physically violent.
Right.
And that's by the way, that's a state that has dual arrest as a possibility.
Okay. So there is just kind of the idea that if the police get called, both people are going to jail for the night.
Well, it has dual arrest capability. I mean, they could do that in Oregon, but what they were doing was arresting the man only, just the man. They weren't arresting the woman.
Do you think that if they were to implement a rule where they were to arrest both people? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So they were basically supposed to arrest both people, but they were still just arresting the man.
Yeah.
They could arrest both people. They could.
Okay.
If they had evidence that there'd been if they'd asked the questions, they would have found that out. But typically, it was just sort of, okay, it's a domestic. Yeah, here you're the guy. We're out of here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. See, because when I'm looking at a lot of what's going on and in a lot of European countries, so you got Canada, you got America, you got you get where I'm going. A lot of Western civilizations. It seems as though there is a propaganda. It seems as though there is a goal out there, and a lot of the statistics I read are pushed by people or groups that I have to assume hate men or dislike men to some point, or have an agenda for other people to fear men, for women in particular to fear men. Do you think there is a political agenda to make men look like monsters, basically? Do you think that that's a thing out there?
There's absolutely a political agenda. It's about power, and it's about getting more power for women by any means. And there's been lying going on with domestic violence statistics for at least 35 years.
30,
I've watched
exactly.
And for at least 35 years. And governments just look the other way. Doesn't matter what country you're in. I mean, the Violence Against Women Act Don't get me started.
Can you actually, I really do want you to get started, because a lot of us, we're from the ground, so we don't know very much about this topic. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on in particular, because I know you're a specialist in it. Can you please explain to us that what you just spoke about there?
Okay. Well, first of all, just let me say, your point about propaganda was excellent. And if you look at a lot of newspaper reports on domestic violence, you find that there are, in fact, elements of propaganda there. One of the things is to equate a worst case scenario, like a really horrific case against a woman, with domestic violence statistics, which makes it seem like all those cases are as bad as that worst case. And I just got through telling you, maybe 5% are involved severe violence by a man. That 5% of all domestic violence, that's all. So, typically it's not that case. Secondly, you inflate the risk. I mean, one of the cases where this comes up the most is women leaving a relationship who think that their husband's going to stalk and kill them because they're leaving the relationship, based on those few cases where it happens. But it's still a very rare event.
Right.
But the propaganda would have you say, I've had women call me and say, I'm leaving my husband. Am I in danger? And I say, well, has there been any violence? No. Why do you think you're in danger? Well, I'm leaving a relationship. You know how men are. I'm going, no, tell me how men are.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'll have these conversations with girls my age. I'm 25, so I'll have these conversations, and just, you can tell.
That's another thing. If anybody been in the dating world like I have, I've been in there, and you will see, and it will be a situation where I ask a woman, like, how was the relationship? Oh, you know how men are. That's why I'm not in a relationship with men. I'm like, what do you mean? They don't have no answer. As a matter of fact, a lot of them get real. They get real. What's the word I'm looking for? Like jumpy. This is another word I'm looking for. Because I asked that question. When a man actually asking like real questions, like wanting to get to know who you are, you should be saying to yourself, oh, okay. Instead of saying, let's say she said, and I used to be like this beta male energy. I used to be like, a girl be like, just ask, I asked her the same question. She'd be like, well, you know how men are. And, that's why I'm single, because I can't trust them, whatever. And then I'll be like, yeah, you right. Men, we crazy. You know what I'm saying? Something wrong with us. Just because I'm trying to get in her pants. Instead of asking the woman specifically, no, I want to know the specifics on what happened into that relationship. Why are you single? You're a beautiful woman. You got things going for yourself. What did you do? You told me what they did. What did you do? And that's how honorable, respectful man is about. When he wants to get to know the person that he might let in his life, he might take serious. If a man is not taking that shit serious on maybe your past, what have you, that man is bound to, make you just, you just be his, girl from him, once in a blue moon, we get together and that's it. He don't take you serious. And if he is about to take you serious, and then 6 months later down the line, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, maybe even less than that, he started asking you, he started asking you questions that he should have asked you when y'all started dating. That's a problem. That's a man with beta male energy that's now that he's starting to see the flaws in you when it's already too late. You might be living this together. You might be even having a baby together, and now he's giving you this information. Now he's asking you this information, knowing that he should have did it before. But the only reason why he didn't ask you from the beginning is because he was looking at you physically instead of mentally. And that's what a lot of young men do. Yeah, men, grown men, older men do in this society. Because all they're looking for is the next hump partner instead of understanding that this hump partner of yours might be somebody that you might like. So you got to take the initiative to speak on what the hell's going on in her life. You don't know if these women got priors. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if these women got into a relationship with a, maybe he was a crazy dude. But what made him crazy? Did his mother make him crazy? His father? Did the other women make him crazy? Or did you specifically make him crazy? Or did he make you crazy? I want to know what's going on. What's the specifics of your relationship? Because if I'm going to take you serious, I think you got some good qualities in you. I want to know all this, especially as a 6 foot tall, 245-pound black man. Why wouldn't I want to know not about this? Because if I'm getting into a relationship with a reckless woman, an agent of chaotic woman, and I've been in that situation, and all of a sudden now, all the shits and giggles are over, and now I'm seeing for what she is when I should have saw it at the beginning when the first month. Yes, real men check the woman that they within a month. Especially nowadays, you could check a woman status, a woman or man status on Facebook on how they are, who their friends are. It's been plenty of times I made that mistake growing up because I didn't have a real man in my life to tell me, don't just look for the woman because of her, her body, her looks, because she's smart. Because real men don't give a shit about that. They want to know how peaceful is this woman. How is she going to make me better as a man? So when I get home, I'm in peace because, especially as a black man, I get out of this comfort zone. I walk out of my house. The comfort zone's over. My house is peaceful, but the world is not peaceful, especially for a black man. So I'm going to go home with a woman that's way less peaceful than the people that's out there. When I'm trying to bring home the bacon, I'm trying to be a provider and a protector. And people get mad at men like me because we don't want to settle, just like a lot of women don't want to settle. When a man don't want to settle, when he want to really get to know who you are before he even take you serious, it should be something that you happy for. Because I'm going to be real with you. Most men in this society is not looking at these women. It's growing, but it's not looking at these women as potential wives. You know what I'm saying? When you don't ask her these questions from the beginning. You understand? When you asking the questions that you need to ask from the beginning, you're knowing what you're getting into. And again, especially when it's a black man, when a black man want to know shit that the average black man don't want to know, we are the trouble. We are, you hate your mama, you hate the women that raised you, you hate this and that. No, I'm thinking for myself. I'm not going to put myself in a predicament maybe that I put myself when I was in my 20s. No, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm not going to put myself that I'm going to be in some white man's court. I'm not going to do that. And any brother that I'm around that have a problem with men teaching young men not to make the choices on just a woman looks and her so-called education, I don't want to be around. Because all you are is another statistic for the courtroom, the judicium, how you pronounce it, the judicium system to have. That's all you are. Because men, no matter if, I feel like I'm an alpha, but people get mad. Oh, when you got to call yourself an alpha, you ain't no alpha. Shut up. Because in this society, in this first world country society, most males are not men. And the reason for it, they don't make decisions that's going to benefit them. They make decisions that's going to benefit women that more than likely that don't benefit themselves, the male. You're going to put a certain woman or a certain group in a class, in a specific class, I should say, you're going to put a woman in a specific pedestal or any group on a pedestal while you over here losing. I put the Most High on a pedestal. I don't even put a good woman on a pedestal. I also believe a man should never, ever love a woman more than she loved him, especially in this modern day first world country, when a lot of these women, these modern day non-traditional women, are not looking for a man to actually be feminine with, be nurturing person with, to be a wife, a real wife material type of woman. They're looking for the man that's going to be that they could get into some trouble with. I'm talking about the modern day non-traditional woman. They're looking for a man that's going to, that's going to benefit them instead of she benefiting him. So damn right, we're going to have men that's going to benefit themselves. Yes, damn right. It's going to, we need that. And if you're raising a young boy and you think that's a problem, that type of mindset is a problem, you're the problem. You're indeed the problem. You know what I'm saying? You're indeed the problem. So let's keep on going. Hold on one second. I know you guys probably didn't hear it, but we got 3 minutes left. We're gonna listen to this.
That there's an innate fear, and it's because this idea is being pushed out that, historically speaking, men have dragged women along. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't get, my opinion is, we didn't get to an age of iPhones in abundance from men just grabbing power from, we did that by cooperating with each other. But for some reason, there's a agenda to push the idea that we got to this point by men just basically pulling women along, sexually assaulting them and abusing them, and women were uncooperative and unwilling and didn't like the direction that men were taking us as humanity. You know what I mean? So it just seems that it's so malicious. You know what I mean? And it doesn't seem to be helping anybody. It seems to be driving a lot of fear. Do you? Okay, go ahead.
It's not helping anybody when you start manufacturing false statistics, for me, it always comes down to, what do the data say? I was raised as a scientist, so sorry. What do the data say? Let's base our policy on that. Let's base our fears on being realistic. Is there an actual incidence of these things going on, or is it much lower than what we think? People are terrified of sharks. Well, guess what? The chances are no shark's ever going to hurt you in your lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Venezuela
shark.
You talked about I watched the video and you spoke about women kind of using this, and just the idea that men are just more violent and innately commit domestic violence. That idea and how it's affected men getting custody of their children when it comes to divorce, and that just being used as a tool. Can you please explain that to other people with maybe some personal experiences that you may have seen or heard of when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's, if you get custody cases, the first thing a woman's lawyer is going to ask her is, well, has he been abusive? Well, and then they'll find one particular incident which they'll try to magnify to make this guy seem like he's going to be dangerous in the future.
That's the first thing I want, because we all live our lives on propaganda we see in the mainstream media. Yeah, that lawyer is the first thing they're going to ask the woman is this man is abusive towards you, so we could use this against them? Because they can. Being as though he might not be abusive. For the most part, statistically, he's not. It's usually the woman. But as I'm gonna end that. I'm gonna end this. Hold on one second. Let me stop sharing. Oh no. Yeah, stop. Let me see. Okay. Usually, the woman, like, she could say yeah, and then now you got to get a more expensive lawyer because you got to fight for, allegations that's more than likely not true. This is why it's very extremely important for you young men, especially young black men, to make better examples. Stop following behind these beta males, these Pookie and Ray Rays, these women that want you to put just any type of woman on a pedestal. Stop following behind these women. Stop it. It's not a thing to do. If you want a productive life, if you want to live as much as you possibly can in a situation where you're not in a financial dilemma, you got to make these choices for yourself. Put yourself first. That's what you have to do. And I'm going to save this video, put it on my YouTube more than likely. But guys, my YouTube is Kasim Lamar YouTube. Real simple. I put it on my thing all the time. Please share this video if you're on Facebook, because I'm sharing it. I'm live on Facebook, and that would be great. If you're raising a young boy, especially a young black boy, my message is for them. My message is for them not to make the same mistakes that my generation made. To be better examples. Creating a strong manhood. In order to have a strong man in the community, is to raise them upright. All this stuff that's telling you to raise your boy sensitive and feminine as much as possible is not helping you, let alone anyone else. So think about that. And again, guys, please, I see that, again, I'm going to keep on putting these videos out. I don't care about people hating on me. People don't want to hear, things that literally that's going to make a generation better. I don't give a shit if they got a problem with it. I don't. I really don't. Because because everything that we're doing now, when we're pandering to any and everything that's not helping at all, especially in the Black American community, if you have a problem with it, just like I said, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything you don't want. That's one thing about it. There's so much information out there. You go somewhere else. But I will always be on the side of the young man to be better than us. I will never promote idiocy. I will always promote manhood and always being on your grind to become a better man, a better leader, and that will create a king atmosphere. Anyway, guys, peace. Have a great Sunday, because I'm about to go. We want to go out with my family, have a little lunch, and that's it. Peace.